The crushing blow came after 10 years of marriage. Infidelity had struck again. The first few days were the hardest. It wasn't even that he didn't love her. He said he didn't want their marriage to be over. He had never meant for it to happen. She was devastated. She couldn't think straight, she couldn't eat, and she couldn't sleep. Infidelity. How could he do this to her? How could he sleep with someone else and then come crawling back into her bed? It can happen to any of us. Polls show that although 90% of married people disapprove of extramarital relationships, statistics from a national survey indicate that 15% of wives and 25% of husbands have experienced extramarital intercourse. The book, The Monogamy Myth, estimates that approximately 60% of husbands and 40% of wives will have an affair at some time in their marriage. A betrayal can shatter even the strongest relationship. It leaves behind feelings of guilt and anger. Overcoming those feelings can be extremely difficult. The affair could be with a coworker, a friend, or a one-night stand. Whichever way the affair happens, the effect is devastating to your whole world. Your security and your self-esteem is shattered. Some of the initial emotions are described by today's guest as a tornado. Dr. Roma Palcan joins us from the state of Florida and will share her personal journey while giving us tools to help anyone who has been cheated on. I'm Pastor Minner Labrador. Welcome to Old Man, New Man. Welcome to Old Man, New Man. We're so happy that Dr. Roma Palcan is here with us today. And Roma, you're not only a psychologist, but life has taught you many things, and God has brought you to a place of understanding where you could help so many people.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your story as we open up the topic of the cheated today.
Well, Minner, you and I have worked together for years in ministry, and we presented this topic years ago. Many years ago. And then life really threw a curveball at me, and I experienced this in my marriage, infidelity. And I was the cheated. And so as a professional and also as a person who's experienced it, I think that I can really lend a helpful view on this.
So you understand not just through theory, but in your own journey, the pain of being on the other side or being cheated.
Yes. And as a professional also seeing both sides and helping people heal on both ends.
And so, Roma, at this time, what would you tell our viewers that is the path to wholeness once the news hits?
Now, this is for the person who has been cheated on.
Correct.
When the news hits, you know that your world has really come to an explosion almost. It feels like there's a tornado, and everything that you knew and hoped for and dreamed and held sacred is now up in the air, just like a tornado, and very polluted, and you really don't know where it's all going to fall. You don't know whether or not you're going to continue to be married. You don't know what's happening with your children, your home, your work.
Is there some blaming that goes on also?
There's a lot of confusion. And yes, a lot of blaming.
What could I have done? Was I responsible? Or what was the...
Absolutely. The rage, the panic, the confusion, the numbness initially. The numbness, the shock of it all is what is most, it knocks you over the most. It really does. And with time, truly, if you choose, if you want to, and if you really ask for God's help, the rage will turn to anger. And then that will turn to peace with time.
With time.
With time and with commitment. The hatred can truly turn toward acceptance and even compassion. It is a journey that one needs to be patient with and really struggle through. And
well, you've mentioned patience and time. So when the first news comes out of the betrayal, it's important for the person experiencing the cheated part of it to know that in time they will continue and they will heal.
Absolutely.
So don't feel that, in other words, to our viewers, don't feel that it's the end of your life. It's a painful blow in life, but in time, you're saying that healing takes place.
Believe it or not. Believe it or not.
Very important.
Very important.
Because it'll get so dark, as you said, you used the word tornado.
Yes.
So it'll be really dark for a season.
Yes, it's very hard. And during all of that confusion, amidst all of the rage and the fear about what is going to happen next, how are you going to live? You really question everything about yourself. How did I not see this? How stupid am I? What a reject. What a loser. What a failure. Boy, I'm really not all that, am I? You know, all of that.
Okay.
All of that. A man or a woman who has been in that position questions everything and about himself or herself. And it's very important to be reminded by caring people around you and yourself who you are, just like the one who is the cheater has to remember who he or she is, that he or she is a son of God or a daughter of God, not a mistake, not a failure. The one who's been cheated on absolutely must remember you're a son of God. You're a daughter of God. You are valuable.
So when your identity is sort of shattered,
yes,
then you need to get well grounded in your identity as a son or daughter of the living God.
Absolutely. And you also need to remember something so valuable, and that is what you once had was not the result of one person giving you the love and the fidelity and all that good stuff that you enjoyed in your monogamous relationship, but it was actually God working through that person, providing the love and the provision, food, clothing, shelter, all of that.
So
it was God who was the one who was doing that, but that person just cooperated nicely and really, really fell off that task.
So with that in mind, what you're saying is God that took care of you through that person will continue to take care of you in spite of that person's betrayal.
Absolutely. And that goes really strong with regard to the finances.
Oh, finances.
Think about
real
it.
fear.
Think about it. Now, there might be two separate households. Who knows what the arrangement will be? And the person who's been cheated on will wonder, how am I going to make it? In this economy especially, how am I going to do this? And for you to remember, you know what? It wasn't your wife or your husband that was giving you the money. It was God who was giving you that money. And that person was cooperating with him. And God will continue it somehow or another because He promises to.
He's going to take care of you.
Yes.
I will be with you always.
Always.
Even through a betrayal.
Even through one of the hardest things that you can experience like that.
The process you're describing for us, you mentioned numbness.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that process, beginning with the numbness.
Well, the most common thing that people will say is, I can't believe this. How could this be? This is impossible. And you're stunned. And you just basically just are lacking in your ability to produce, to think, to concentrate, to be a good parent. Your abilities just are diminished for some time.
So what should you do in that numbness? I mean, folks are going to be asking you questions, your family, your friends.
That's right.
They're going to be asking you, what are you going to do next? Or you can't put up with it, you need to do this or that. What would you recommend to someone in that situation?
It is so important that you avoid making any decisions that are lifelong during that time. You feel like you have been made a fool, and you want to get back in the driver's seat and not feel and appear so incompetent. You need to do something about this, you know? And lots of people say, well, you know what, if I found out my spouse was cheating on me, it'd be over. I'd kill him, or whatever it is, something like that. Well, the truth is that most of the time is pride speaking. Lovely. It's a good example of pride all over the place. Right. This is not a time for that anymore. It really is a time for being still, truly waiting for the pieces to somewhat fall into place, as if it's been twirled in a tornado. And you will have time to make a decision about your marriage. It does not have to be now, and it's not a good idea to do it now. Mm-hmm. You will have an idea about what to do about children and visitation, all that. One decision that I would not recommend for anyone who has been cheated on is to sweep it under a rug, say men will be men, girls will be girls, something like that. Do not make that choice.
So you recommend they address it, they talk about it, they deal with it?
Yes, yes. Even though your culture might actually even tell you, oh, well, it happens.
You know, in hearing you, I'm reminded of that verse that says, be still and know that I am God. And so you described a tornado effect. So your suggestion is that we just be still, let the dust settle.
Yes.
And don't rush to the decisions that our loved ones and friends may be pushing us into.
Absolutely.
But to be patient.
We are a problem-solving people. We like to take care of things swiftly, efficiently. This is not a time to do that. It's not a wise time to initiate any plan.
It's a time of emotional chaos.
It is. You know, it's darkness. If you want to even consider it, it's like mud being splattered everywhere, and you really are trying to wade through it, try to get through it. It has spoiled a sacred place, your relationship, your marriage.
And so once the numbness wears off, what happens next in the process?
Well, it would be wise for the person who's been cheated on to talk to the spouse, the cheater, and decide whether or not they're going to work on their relationship.
So from numbness, does rage, you said somebody may say, I'll kill them. Does rage set in that process?
A significant amount of rage takes place.
The breaking down of drywall or glass? Or
Yes, yes. And that person who's been cheated on needs to accept, be with that rage. Try not to shut it down. As a Christian...
How can they deal with it in a healthy way?
As a Christian, you really do talk to God and you say, you know, I don't like all of this hate that's in me now. I don't like this rage. I don't like the fact that everything I want to say about my spouse is negative. Please transform me, transform my heart, my mind. Nevertheless, this is a natural consequence of that kind of devastation in a marriage. So be patient. It will take time for rage to turn to anger. It'll take many, many months. 6 months at a minimum, I would say. And then it will go toward peace.
You were talking about dealing with the rage in a healthy way.
Yes.
You know, turning it over to God, but perhaps like if you did 2 miles on a treadmill at home, maybe it's time to do 12 or 16 miles. Well, how do you get rid of, because rage is a desire to destroy and to beat someone up.
And it is the result often of obsessing, trying to sort out what in the world happened, try and trying to figure out how could this possibly take place. You're trying to wrap your arms around it, and you think about it and think about it and think about it, and you get yourself more
Sometimes there's no logic to it. It's like sin is madness. You can't really piece it all together, can you?
Well, if your spouse who cheated on you is available and is willing to talk to you about it, then you can piece together some of it. Some of it you might not, and the why might remain forever. But there is a science that as long as you are available to God, the person who cheated and the person who was cheated on will be able to understand that. It is wise to avoid dumping the rage on the person who offended you, who violated you.
That's not easy.
No, it's not easy. And it is wise for the person who's been cheated on to talk to another person at this point. Definitely, I recommend counseling. A good, wise Christian counselor.
And if they don't go to a counselor, perhaps they should be very selective of the friend they go talk to.
Very important.
Because there are some friends that just love to pour gasoline on a fire.
Right.
And so you want someone that will help you process, that will pray with you, that will lead you and coach you along to wholeness as they're able.
Yes.
Now, rebuilding that trust takes a long time.
It does. It does.
And if the person continues to say or ask for reaffirming the love, do you really love me? Do you really want to stay with me? It's important that the cheater continue to repeat it back to them if they decide that they're going to continue to save the marriage. But what if they don't want to save the marriage?
Well, there are so many different journeys here. If they don't want to save the marriage, then the person who's been cheated on really needs to come to a place of acceptance. They need to remember that God is the one who provided a relationship, a marriage, and will be able to see you through the rest of it. So basically, you come to a place through much suffering, and then you say, okay, God, if you know best that this relationship is done, help me to accept that. If it is going to be that we'll be able to work it through and survive, help me to accept that. But certainly, Lord, you don't want me to suffer in this type of betrayal in a relationship with someone who's not trustworthy. So I'm just going to leave this to you, Lord, and heal independently, and certainly you will heal. That is a guarantee. If you want to, you will heal. If you are with your spouse and you are in counseling, there are things that need to happen.
Like what?
One is trust needs to be rebuilt. So the relationship, the lover needs to be out of that person's life. And the one who's been cheated on needs to be certain of that. Very difficult process. It's complicated.
But they have to cut them out fully with all contact.
All contact. And that might require changing a job. It might require changing a residence. It really might require drastic steps. And it might just simply mean no more contact at all, and that's all that's necessary. Mm-hmm. In counseling, when I've worked with husbands and wives who have gone through this, there are two things that are really important. Building the relationship that exists, starting to rebuild the friendship, sexual intimacy that has been so violated, trust, respect, admiration, all of those good things that build up a relationship, those pieces need to be restored. That's not easy, because the one who's been cheated on literally is going to be doing this. Mm-hmm. Don't even come near. It's too frightening. Too mm-hmm. frightening. So that needs to take place in conjunction with the one who cheated giving some explanation, the whys, the hows. That's not a fun thing at all. It's not a comfortable thing at all for the cheater.
One time or whenever it's asked?
Well, there needs to be an available time, whether it's going to be in counseling or every day, just a window of time where the couple agrees, let's talk about this. I think it's wise to protect the cheater's integrity, to be open and available all day, all the time for any question is exhausting. It's emotionally devastating. That person needs settling too. They've gone through the tornado too, from a different perspective. So be wise, be patient, be diligent about discussing all of the questions, the whys, the hows. Sometimes, if a man, for instance, has been the cheater, it's going to be very hard for him to talk about. Or a woman. In that case, write it out.
Write it out.
Write it out. It works great. And you avoid these dark, difficult conversations. You can write it out and then you can talk about it.
In our last few minutes, Roma, there's a word that is a real difficult word, but the word is forgiveness. If the marriage is going to be saved and they're going to start from the beginning, what can you tell us about forgiveness?
Forgiveness is a requirement of a Christian. God says, do it. He really does. He says, do it. And we can make a decision to forgive. It doesn't mean that you condone what has happened. It just simply means that you release that person from judgment, from condemnation. You've let that go. You've made that decision to let that go. Now, when you're in so much pain, you're not going to feel all warm and fuzzy toward that person. You're not going to feel all the lovely feelings of letting go and peace and love and that. But you have made the decision and you've communicated, I forgive you, and those feelings will follow.
Now, an important question that some of our viewers may be asking is, have you forgiven your ex-husband?
I have. I actually forgave before it was even asked.
And you did that for yourself, for him, according to God's will? What did you experience when you forgave him?
You know, I experienced a decision. It was an intellectual thing at first.
Really?
It really was, just intellectual. And then with much time, much patience, and much commitment to healing, I felt peace. Now, trust me, anyone who's gone through this will experience anger and all of those things that we don't really want to feel at times. It just gets stirred up.
So in the last part of our program here, in the last word, what do you want our viewers to know if they are cheated?
That there is truly hope, that life will not be as dark as it is now, that you will survive this. You are not a loser or a failure. You're not a piece of garbage being tossed aside because you're not worth it, that you are of great value and healing will be in store for you.
Has Old Man, New Man better equipped you to live as a new man in Christ? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Visit oldmannewman.com to review this television program and many others that are designed to help you along life's journey. At our website, you will also find contact information of our guests along with more resources. The Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians 5:17 that if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone and the new has come. Enjoy your journey as a new man and know that eternal life is yours through Jesus Christ. Ladies, I'd like to ask you to encourage your fathers, husbands, and sons to view this television program. When the men we love are strong and happy, we too are happier. Old Man, New Man is here to equip them with proven biblical information for success in the Christian adventure. We would like for you to join our ministry. When you sign up online, we will send you a copy of the book Prayer Warriors. We need partners like you to help us reach God's men and families. We are dedicated to reach the men which bless the women and children that love them. I'm Evelyn Labrador. Thank you for joining us today on this local station, and remember to visit us at oldmannewman.com.
When the news of a betrayal hits, it hits like a tornado. Should it ever hit in your life, remember your identity. You belong to God and He loves you very much. It's never His will for these kind of things to happen. Remember you're His special son or daughter. Number 2, avoid big decisions. Avoid decisions that you may be pressed to make. Wait for the dust to settle before making life changes. Number 3, talk to the cheater. Talk to your spouse about what's next in your lives. Number 4, deal with the rage in a healthy way. Don't obsess, but talk to a mental health professional or a caring, wise friend, and always be careful which friend you choose. Number 5, remember that you will heal. It will take time and many tears, but you will heal. If your spouse is willing to work on saving the marriage, then trust has to be rebuilt and your spouse must cut all contacts from the third party. Number 6, forgive. At first, forgiveness will be intellectual. Then with time, Dr. Palcan has shared how you will find that peace once again. And finally, and most importantly, trust God to meet all of your needs. I do hope and pray you never have to go through a betrayal. But with statistics as high as they are, if you do, remember that with God's help, you too can overcome and be happy once again. You are God's special child and He loves you very much. I'm Pastor Minner Labrador. Thank you for joining us on Old Man, New Man.